everyone. My name is Godswill Ugochukwu. It's my pleasure. I'm delighted to welcome all of us to this session of the Power Dialogue. Like we already know, the Power Dialogue is a monthly public discourse that aims to highlight three cardinal objectives: to share information and ideas about the sector, to advocate policy positions, and to highlight business and investment opportunities in the sector. Tonight, the focus of our conversation will be on the topic optimizing consumer advocacy in a competitive market. For specifics, we will be reviewing the efficacy of the current consumer redress mechanism. We will discuss the roles of CSOs in the consumer advocacy and also understand and highlight the nexus between consumer rights and service delivery. So thankfully, we have the good people of AEDC in the room, nicely dressed, yes. So they would be here, of course, to take complaints and feedbacks and whatever we have, right after the session. So please, be kind enough to share any information you have with them right after the session, please. Tonight, our conversations tonight will be moderated by Mr. Chibueze Eke. He's an engineer and energy finance specialist with over 10 years experience spanning gas and power, energy services, and banking in Nigeria, the US, and the UK. He has a deep understanding of the Nigerian power sector, specializing in business strategy, financing modeling, and risk management. Chibueze continues to serve as a project coordinator for several of EMRC's retainer and call-off contracts with distribution companies. Most recently, he has led the provision of energy demand studies for 3 distribution companies in Nigeria and the design of practical strategies for minimizing ATC and C losses. Chibueze holds a Master of Science in Energy Finance from the University of Dundee and a Master of Engineering in Engineering Management from Cornwall University. Please join me and welcome the moderator. Thank you.
Welcome to yet another edition of Nextier Powers Dialogue. I'm happy to see that there are so many customers like me in the room, and it's important that we understand that we are all customers first before we are consultants, DISCO staff, CSO members. It's going to be a good evening, I assure you. We're going to deliberate, we're going to discuss, we're going to learn and unlearn. We're going to try and have a discussion that helps us to deal with a topic that is really, really dear to all of us, and I think is part of the reason why Nextier Power has put it as one of the topics in our dialogue today, and that's the topic about optimizing consumer advocacy in this power sector. Without much ado, I would like to just give us a sense of why we're here. We're here to discuss and understand how we can channel customer advocacy, how we can understand the efficiency of redress systems that already exist, or is there a need to actually revise the redress system? Also identify the roles of the civil society organizations that exist to know what they are supposed to do so that we can actually go through them to maybe make some of our complaints and understand the nexus between what the consumer's rights are as well as what service delivery expectations should be. And also we'll try to justify some considerations for low-income earners in terms of what should be done to subsidize some customers who cannot afford to pay for full power supply. So what I would just try to do is to let us know that we would make sure that we know what, at the end of today, what we really want to know is what is the current customer complaint system that is existing? Is it effective? Some of us that have called in to complain about a meter being faulty, having an issue with connection, is the current system working? What do we need to do to address it? And I think that's why we are all in the room today. And I'm actually excited, and I'm sure most of you are excited to be here. And I believe that from our discussions, we will actually get to understand it better so that we can solve this problem of consumer advocacy. So I'll use this opportunity to actually call up the people that will be discussing today's issue. First of all, I would like to call up Sephia. Sephia in the room? Sephia, please come. So Sephia is actually the head of Customer Affairs at Abuja Electricity Distribution. Have a seat, please.
Okay.
Next person I would like to call is Dr. Sam Amadi. Is Dr. Sam Amadi in the room? Please give me a round of applause. Dr. Sam Amadi was a former chairman of NEC, the regulator, and today he's working in Imo State in the area of rural electrification. And the last person, you're a teacher now? That's good. And then I would also like to call on, not the least, Mr. Uket Eko Obonga. Mr. Uket Eko Obonga, please give him a round of applause. He is the National Secretary of Nigerian Electricity Consumers Advocacy Network. And he is, as you may all not be aware or be aware, he's also a certified energy economist, and he is a lead director in Energy Consumers Consultancy Services. So please welcome to the panel, each of you. I would like each of you to take just 5 minutes to give us introductory comments. Tell us a bit about yourself, your organization, your role, and what you expect we can achieve today in terms of your contribution. So I will start with the only lady on the panel. Ms. Efia, can you please go ahead?
Yeah, good evening all. My name is Safia Bello Tifi. I am the General Manager Customer Service, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. In Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, customer is king, and customer is the center of our business. Without the customers, we won't be in business. So my organization, my management has come to, they know that without the customers, without you, they won't be agency. And this all over the world has also come to that realization. It's not only ADC, it's a world thing, that customer is the center of the business. Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Okay, Dr. Sam, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you very much. My name is Sam Amade. I'm a university teacher and recently appointed chairman of Nigerian Imo State Power Electrification Agency. I'm a customer of Abuja Disco. Maybe I will share my experience today. But I'm also a pro-tem president of Nigerian Law and Economics Scholars Association. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Uket?
Tenure as the chairman of the commission. We are primarily there for consumers. We have done a lot of interventions across the country on consumer issues. We've done studies that has helped even some discos to scale up their revenue collections. We have done quite a lot within the short time that we were brought on board. Thank you very much.
I'm happy you've done quite a lot. That's good. Okay, so I think what I would try to do is follow up from what you just said and speaking about how Dr. Sam has been instrumental in your own setup, and try to, give Dr. Sam a chance to speak further about that by trying to help us understand whether the original intention of setting up the current civil society organizations, was it really, do you think in hindsight they've achieved some of the objectives?
Okay, thank you very much. I won't speak to much particulars because, like my friend would say, my knowledge of the industry is dated now. So, so I don't know details what they're doing. But essentially, the idea here is a theoretical one. The idea that consumers and versus producers in a regulated market is one of asymmetry of power. So the regulatory framework commits consultations to allow participation of consumers, provide opportunity and framework for remedies for violation of consumer rights. We have NEC up to today has very elaborate consumer rights documents, framework, complaint management regime. But underneath that is the assumption that consumers in their thousands can really bear the cost of managing those complaints, bear the cost of getting involved in those consultations. So the assumption of the level playing field is that the regulator is prepared to listen to anybody. But then there is always a transaction cost, as we understand it. And so the idea was, look, we didn't see quality representation from consumers, especially during tariff hearing, which is quasi-judicial, legislative in a sense, quasi-judicial in the sense that the regulator listens to filings, look at the filings of operators, listen to consultations and interventions from consumer groups, other special groups, and then comes to a decision that this revenue requirement should be approved and the tariff design is okay. Now, if the consumers don't have the capacity to do those mathematics, follow all those analysis, then they will most likely, not by design, by seduction, but essentially, follow the more sophisticated, presentation of the operators. So the idea was, why don't we aggregate this disaggregated, powerless group, bring the commercial consumers who have the resources and the stakes together with the residential consumers so they can form a body. And so I wrote up the plan, and then we met, and of course it took off. Essentially, one of the drawbacks was that I was too enthusiastic because of my background that we're going to fund them. But of course, we got to the commission, they said we can't be funding the consumer, the licenses, and they were right. So we didn't fund them, and they're not happy with me. But they forgot that I put up everything. Idea, they put the money, and the bad guy, but that's bad. Anyway, so it hobbled them. They couldn't operationalize. So I think right now, I'm not sure they've been pulling their weight. I'll be surprised to see if they've got the funding, they've got the technocratic power, the skill level, hiring of experts, economists, and then willingness, because it's all about power. It's all about also being able to profile it. So in a world, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it has really taken off as in many countries in the world, this is funded by public funding, backstops advocacy, consumer advocates. And by the way, this is different from consumer regulation, which CPC others can do. This is about a consumer advocacy group put together. It's in public interest to have public funding, but we didn't have that, and NEC couldn't support them. So I think they're not doing as good as they could, and perhaps that should be something to discuss here.
I'm sure you have some responses for him.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I will begin by saying that the sector generally stands on a tripod. You have the regulators, you have the operators, and the consumers. And these other two, the regulator and the operators, they are well structured, organized, resourced, and they can do a lot of things for themselves. They can influence policy decisions, regulatory processes that impact on outcomes. These two legs of the tripod are standing. The third leg, the consumers, for whom all the works they are doing is for. They are in total disarray. And that's what informed the strategic thinking and creativity of Dr. Sam Amadi when he went around the country, particularly the 6 geopolitical zones, consulting with electricity consumers, and eventually they packaged NECAN. Like he said, I believe not many people have heard of NECAN, because we have not actually done what we're supposed to do because of certain constraints and limitations. But be that as it may, the need for an advocacy group, which is strong, viral, broad-based, and manned by knowledgeable men and women in the sector, cannot be overemphasized. Yes, there are other advocacy groups all over the place, littered, some geographic, some all over, advocating for themselves, advocating for those who consult them. But the impact of this advocacy on outcomes is not there. So there is a need for us to look inwards. Like what he started, it must not necessarily mean NECAN. We can aggregate all these groups together and form a formidable team that will, play the critical role in the sector. There is no way you have a three-legged something standing, and only two is standing, and the other one is not standing, and you expect you are going to have stability. Consumers have a central role to play if the sector will move forward and succeed. We have looked at across the country, for instance, I cite example with ECA, Energy Consumer Australia. It is funded by the Energy Department of Australia, a government agency. So there is nothing wrong. I believe all we need to do is to amend the EPSR Act, the Electricity Power Sector Reform Act of 2005, and put in defined rules for advocacy group. Because the moment you have a strong advocacy group, the excesses that we are having would be tackled. Let me give you an example before. Immediately after we came on board, we discovered here in Abuja that there is a community that has 32 distribution transformers. And the revenue base, that is the revenue collections from that community of 32 transformers, distribution transformers. And out of the 32 distribution transformers, 13 of them were dedicated, that is owned by individuals. Now the other one, the balance was for the public. Now we discovered that the revenue collection in that area was low, between 4 and 5 million. So we carried out a study to find out the reason why. Number one, we discovered that the AEDC that was operating in that area has only but one service engineer who lives in Gwagwalada and coming about 40-something kilometers to that location. Two, they had only 2 marketers. And there was a huge revenue potential in that area. So when we carried out the study, the survey in that place, we turned in the report to NEC. He has left then. It was Dr. Anthony Aka was the acting. That was in 2016. And what did we discover? Number one, that AEDC had the potential of raising between 15 and 20 million in that community. Two, it was that report, the report of that survey, that came up better the idea which we submitted to NEC then of sub-franchising. NECAN was the first body officially to come up with the idea of sub-franchising. Because according to the terms of reference given to us, we were to embark on studies and commission studies or researches into the system. And when this report was handed over to AEDC, I did a presentation to the consultants and top management staff. They picked it according to them. The area had low-hanging revenue fruits they could easily harvest. And that was why they used it for their pilot scheme, for the grants they got from USAID. So having
a well-organized, structured advocacy group is not just like what we're doing in student days, we not agree or we not agree. That is not the issue. It goes beyond that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I think, Sophia, the question already comes directly to you now. He has spoken about how they have actually supported ADC in the past with coming up with research, doing studies, and even trying to help you get grants eventually. And I'm guessing those grants went to maybe enumeration and different efforts that they have benefited from, correct?
Sorry, not helping them. They used it anyway.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, okay.
It was supporting their business. Yes. So, Madam Sophia, I would like to just ask you to give us a sense. Some of us in the room, some of us have probably called to complain about issues. Some of us have not. But for those who are curious to know what the complaint management system is like in AEDC, give us a sense of what the process is, what you people have in-house. Tell us why you are doing very well in managing complaints. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for acknowledging that. Going back to his question, the role of civil organization, the relationship between civil organization and AEDC is partners in business. They are all over. They are where we are not, they handle cases that we cannot see. So our doors are opened to them. They are always welcome to bring up ideas or to bring their findings for us to work with, just like he said. Oga here has a table in my office. Today, we have resolved more than 5 cases together. So it is, what he said is in line. Talking about complaint management mechanism in AEDC, it's a journey, it's a roadmap. We did not just wake up and then we're where we are today. It all started with the transformation agenda way back from inception of AEDC. Number one, there's a cultural thing. We need to move from where we are before. You remember, I've worked for NEPA for like 18 years. So, and I'm now in AEDC for 6 years. So I have been in this business. So the mindset of our people, you know, our staff needs to change. We need to orientate them to the new business, world-class business. So to be world-class, transformation does not happen in a day. So like I said, it's a journey. The company started by being customer-centric. Being customer-centric means making customer the center of your business. So what the company did was to make customer-centric one of our strategic pillars from onset. And that means from the gate to the MD. Customer is everybody's business in AEDC. It doesn't matter whether you're a technical person or you are an accountant. The customer does not care. All the customer cares about is resolve my issue. I'm seeing you here, you're AEDC. So we need to shift from the cultural norms of, no, please go to that office, I'm not in customer service, to making sure customer service is everyone's business. So now in AEDC, commercial, our new commercial is customer service. So customer service now is a one-stop shop whereby you walk in with your complaint. If you want to modify your name, you bring your relevant documents, it will be done there. If you're overbilled, you can be rebilled there and be given a bill instantly, and you go. So what we are trying to achieve, and what we are doing in AEDC, is to give you that customer experience. We have moved from customer service to giving you a perfect customer experience. Customer experience is what takes you to Amigo to go and buy a shop that you can go to, say they will push you, they will do this to you, you go home, maybe you may buy it at a cheaper rate. But when you go to Amigo, there's air condition, you know, there are people, that someone is following you, madam, how can I help you? That's a world-class customer service, and that's what we hope to achieve. But how do we achieve that? So by being customer-centric is one, and also in being customer-centric, you have to look at your people That's the culture change, your processes, and the technology. And also improve maintaining the technology. So you can afford, you can buy 1 billion, 10 billion technology. If you don't have the right people to work on that, it's useless. So you can also have right processes. Without the right people, you're not there. So also there's this alignment of the people. Some of the people that are inherited are not customer-centric. So you look at them, you align them, you send them to HR, you train them, you orient them. We call them the jacquelines. Some of them are very good on the system, but not customer-facing. So, you know, there's a lot of transformation that really went on and is still ongoing. And I'm telling you, if you can just walk into any of our franchise area, you'll be amazed. That's for the people. And then the processes too. The processes too has to align with what you are bringing in. And then the technology. In 2018, we went live on INCMS. INCMS is commercial, is an integrated commercial management system. That is to say our systems have been integrated into one pot. And that pot gives you the visibility, the whole life cycle of a customer. From inception to the end of your cycle with AEDC. You may decide to opt out. So there's way of terminating the contract. So that gives you the visibility. You don't have to travel from regional to come to headquarters to come and lodge a complaint. The system is a one system base whereby you lodge your complaint from regional. I'll be able to see it on my table. The MD can be able to see it. So, and it is profile-based. When you walk into the system, you are talking to me, I'm registering your complaint, my name, my profile will be there. So, and MD can see it, I can see it.
And just to ask, so for some of us that will probably complain soon, or for those who have complained before, give us an example of if somebody calls to say maybe their meter was faulty, or they had a bill that they thought was a crazy bill, what would be the process for that complaint? How long will it take? What should they expect?
Okay, for a call.
Yes.
We have a robust contact center. I can give you the number now. You can call and lodge this complaint and see how fast it can be resolved.
Okay. Can you call the number for us?
Okay, do you have a phone here?
Do we have phones here? We're ready for you.
What? So my audience telling me that they don't know that AEDC has a contact center that is 24 hours, that is ready to take your complaint and resolve it real time.
Okay, maybe at the end you give us the number. No,
All right.
At the end you give all of us. But Dr. Sam, just to take up from what she has said, she has spoken about the people, the processes, and technology. And I think technology is interesting because from what she's saying, she's able to see a complaint when it comes in through the door. I also understand that NEC, in terms of designing how the market should work and the different things you people have done, customer forums were also part of the redress mechanism. Can you speak a bit more about customer forums, and also when she speaks about technology and the platform that they have, is there a need for the regulator to have visibility of such a platform? Should the CSOs have visibility? I expect that the customer should already see how his case is being treated, so his case number and all of that. Can you speak a bit further about that, sir?
Okay, I think customer care in the industry is founded on two things. An active, if you like, troublesome customer, and an effective regulator. I mean, so I'm enthused by the and all the processes, but then there are processes. You can put in something, they see it, but how do you ensure that somebody acts is a different thing. I myself, I keep receiving, in fact, I keep receiving customer complaint, perhaps more than AEDC, customer care. People still call me as a chairman, because the chairman is able to fix XYZ. Yeah. Of course, I will call people from NEC. So I think basically the industry is set up well in terms of processes. First is each of the discos are supposed to have their own, like she has mentioned, which is their own technology-based platform for receiving, managing, profiling disputes. Let's not forget that they're supposed to make their returns. Customer dispute management report is a key indicator and a key return that NEC always look at. Again, the forum, okay, first is that every dispute goes back to them. You know, they are supposed to have their complaint desk almost in all their business, you know, and then consumers go there, write to them. And then the second level is, of course, the forum offices, which ought, by the nature of the industry, really, apart from cost dimension, cost component, ought to be almost everywhere. In Abuja, it's in Gwarimpa, but I don't know, by the time we left, all the states under EADC had not got it. I don't know whether they have got it now. It's supposed to be in all states. So I think they have got it. It is now.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you look at it, the economics of tracking or filing a report, let's say you are in Niger State, okay? It's such a awesome landmass. You know, people come from all that area to come to get, you know, to defend or file on. That's what the component should factor. That even if those systems exist, the cost of accessing them and effectively using them might be very prohibitive, especially in a society where we're not that connected by technology. So you may have your smart platform, but the consumers are not connected. So ordinarily, people can press button and send their complaint to their forum office if they fail to perform. But here they have to basically write it up and take it there and then go through the whole process. So that's one shortcoming.
Just quick one, for the benefit of the audience, can you explain forum office?
Okay, forum office is actually a very good point. It's more like a court, but like a jury kind of court. A smart idea we borrow from New Delhi, which is that, you know, the same people in the community, you pull them, the NSC, Society of Engineers, economists, MAN, NGO rep, so they come together, they form like a tribunal. And then, so these are consumers who will handle consumer when it escapes, the discourse don't give you satisfaction. So they come there, and they're enforceable by the regulator. We have enforced several of them. The idea is that if you go there, if the discourse don't respond, like she says, you give a complaint, most of them on time, who are arbitrarily or who are still estimated and are disputed. Many people call me and say, look, not agency, maybe another disco has called them off, and for nothing, they have paid their bill, they say except they pay a punitive fee. These are issues that are, you know, litigable, so to say, complaints that they may be right, they may be wrong. So when they complain and you don't act, then they go to the forum office. Now the forum office, well, they go to NEC. Now if you look at the dispute management flow chart, it makes a lot of sense. But the problem, three problems, there's one is the problem of attitude. Are consumers, is there enough confidence and trust factor with the regulator and the operators for consumers to go through that? You see, we think in terms, it's a cost-free. It's not cost-free. To leave your house and file a report, to write a letter, has a cost dimension. And therefore, if the expected outcome is zero, then the disincentive to even undertake that process. And that's where trust, the reputation of the regulator as focus on consumer affairs issues matters. Again, big problem is monitoring. The capacity for regulator to monitor daily violation is low. The regulatory philosophy in a developing country, where the priority focus is investment drive, is that you are going to gloss over consumer issues deliberately and strategically. Sometimes, I come from the human rights background. I've been a fighter all my life, worked with the greatest fighters, Ganifa and Mirisa. So I understand this concept. It was difficult to sell to the commission that they should focus away from more present development challenge of investment and creating capacity. Start fighting over 1 megawatts or the conflict around it. So the first problem that the regulatory stance is rather to help operators, you know, move up. And so they're likely going to lose out on focusing on the consumer. That's one problem. The second problem is that the capacity to monitor. If you don't see it, it can't sanction, it can't enforce it. So does the regulator have that capacity to see all these things, have an integrated grid? When they file things to us, do you have the personnel and the resources and the time to go through them? And the third factor, in my view, would be, what to call whack-a-mole. So you don't need to see it, but if you see one, you damage you give them serious. They now begin to do self-regulation. So why would Abuja Disco really bother about one person, sort of one poor guy there who is complaining, who can't even go to court, who can use police or military? They will bother because if that guy sends to NEC and NEC verifies one instance, NEC will take it as exemplary to punish, to create behavioral change. So I think looking at the retail side of it, inefficient, NEC will call fix mistakes, is to adopt a posture that you send a message and internalize that commitment in the disco, so that they themselves will be like really customer-centric. So I think the challenge is, first, is that the regulatory focus does not really address the concern. Second is the capacity to monitor, to find out. And thirdly is the regulatory commitment to massive punishment as a deterrence and as a way of incentivizing and internalizing the cost of not promoting customer care. That's really where the crisis steps in.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that elaborate answer. Mr. Uket, I'm sure you've been waiting to speak for a while now.
Yep.
What do you think, if at all Abuja Disco already has a platform, and he's saying that the regulator should be able to see what that platform is, or what is happening, have a dashboard view, what would be your own suggestion in terms of what both parties should see and the customer should as well see in terms of creating transparency and accountability in how his own complaint is being managed? From your own experience, can you advise us on what that could be?
Okay, thank you very much. Like he said, the regulator here does not have the capacity to monitor what is going on. I'll begin by saying that we have 30 forum offices in Nigeria today. 30. And these 30 are located in 29 states. Ikeja and Eko Disco having one each, and in Lagos State too. Then 29 states out of 36 states have these forum offices. Now, the forum offices are located in state capitals. Recently, let me give it this illustration to, stress what I'm saying. I was in Calabar and traveled 215 kilometers to a border town called Ikom. And there, a few individuals who know what we are doing here, they came with complaints and letters written to the Port Harcourt Disco that operates in that area, that they paid money for CAPME, Credit Advance Payment for Metering Implementation, as far back as 2016. And up to that moment, nothing was done. They took their complaints to the disco, to the office there. They acknowledged it, stamped their letters, and they asked they could tell them, go to Port Harcourt. It means we have to drive through from Ikom to Calabar to Akwa Ibom to Port Harcourt to have your complaints met or resolved. So you can see in terms of the location of these centers, forum offices in the states, is faulty. If you want to address that, to address the redress mechanism, first and foremost, we have to get these centers closer to the people. Why not in each of the local governments? Why not?
But that
in
will cost
all
money.
Cost.
That will cost money. Who will pay for that?
Who will pay for it?
Consumer.
Consumers or the operators?
Of course.
To us, they are making money. The consumers out there believe they are making money. And of course, they are making money. They are making money because we know electricity markets, we have a huge, very huge market. And so we get, worried when people say, oh, we are not making money, if we are not making money, then hand over the business to those who can do it. Yes? Yes. So that's by the side. Now, the redress system, like I said, is faulty. A consumer walks up to a service center, or how do you call them, CCU unit, that is a consumer or customer care unit. Apart from Abuja, and we shouldn't use Abuja as a template, I'll give it to her that they have an effective INCMS, that is the Integrated Customer Management Services here. Abuja, Ikeja, and Lagos. I can't remember any other one because we have gone around the country. I can't remember any other one. Now, like she suggested, we can deploy technology. A young man developed a software here to handle this. Key in all your consumers, all your customers, captured customers into that software. And he was willing to give it to net free. But maybe when they say how much, he say free, they say, okay, we can't take it. Perhaps if he said $2 million, they would have bargained. So these things are not rocket science that we cannot surmount. So what I'm saying is that we have the discourse. Maybe they may be talking, yes, you go to the MD, you go to people like the GM sitting down here. But go to Lube, go to Kubwa, go to Buhari. The story is different. So, ANEC itself, with about, I think, 177 or 270 something staff, seated in Abuja here. They don't have offices in the states, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, apart from forum offices.
Correct.
They don't have NEC offices in the 36 states of the Federation.
I think they have written office, but closed down now, I guess.
Yes. So how can you sit in Abuja to monitor what is going on in Zamfara, or in Adamawa State, in Calabar, or in Badagry? It's simply not possible. So it is high time we look into this, and that is where CSOs should come in handy. They can fill that gap. Permit me to use another illustration. I'm going to use so many illustrations because we have really intervened in so many things. Somebody came to us here in 2018 and complained that Udu Kingdom in Delta State under Benin Disco was taken out of supply from the 16th of November 2016 to when they came to us. What was the problem? The complaint was that the community, the local government made up of 39 communities, and 35 of these communities were owing 788 million. And they disconnected them until you pay this money. So when they came to us, I was delegated to go to Benin and Asaba and to the place. And when we got there, we discovered that out of 700 million, 488 million was owed by the defunct Alaja Steel Complex. I ran down to Abuja, I went to BP, and we were told that at takeover, they drew a line. From the 1st of November 2013, you have to collect bills. Anything below, don't go that area. But here they are. They collected all the bills, called legacy debts or inherited debts. And because of that, 35 communities, including Alaja, was taken out of supply.
And just to help the audience, so
and at the end of the day,
November 2013, reason being that that was when the distribution company became a private company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So now we intervene. Our intervention led to NEC ordering Benin Disco to remove that debt, and they were left with 300 million, or 310 million, so to say. At the end of the day, we sat in the forum in Asaba on behalf of the community, and during the debt reconciliation and verification, only 10 million out of 310 million was verified as we speak. So having an empowered, well-structured, organized advocacy group will do a lot of things in the system.
And to empower you,
it will
in terms of funding, how are you funded?
Well, unfortunately, you've heard him say, the man who set up NECAN is seated before you. He said we were not funded. And maybe because of the passion and the caliber of persons who are not, we are not looking for jobs, so to say. We have our various businesses, and what is driving us is the passion. We contribute money. We contribute money to run NECA. And we have made close to 2,000 interventions without receiving a dime from anybody. So look at the situation. Let us now look inward. If a body like this is empowered, well-resourced, having branches or chapters across the states of the Federation, a lot of things will happen that will benefit both the operators. I have told you, I cited from the beginning, it was NECAN that made AEDC move into that place, use this as a pilot scheme. And when they were deploying meters, that community is the only community, the whole of Nigeria, a rural community that has 680-something meters deployed by a disco, the whole country.
Okay. Thank you for that example.
Courtesy of the work of an advocacy group.
Thank you very much. Sophia, I think naturally we're coming to you now. It's interesting because he mentioned that ADC is making money. So
Making money?
And then he's saying that they need to be funded. So I want to ask you, in terms of the work you've been doing and how you've been working with NECAN and other CSOs, can you just explain a bit more to some of us how you've really supported them financially, non-financially, and also help us understand response rates. When people call and complain, how long should they expect their complaints to be resolved? What should they expect?
Like I said earlier, our DISCO and the CSOs are partners in the same business. Our interest is to see that customers get satisfied, and they also help us to dig into areas that we may not be there, so they're all over. We appreciate that. Talking about finance, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. I thought they're a body sponsored by other foundations, or they get their foundings from, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not in a position to say that, but I can find out from management. That's about founding. What I do is customer service.
So talk about response
I take
rates.
care of my customers. Response rates in AEDC, because like we said, we're already automated. It's a one-stop shop. So response rate is real time. We have different types of customers. Some customers will call their brothers, their sisters, and assume they have laid a complaint. A complaint is when you call the contact center, they will ask for your contract number, your SPN number, that is your service number, where you're calling from, and then it will get registered. And those complaints that are registered get statistics. We have Pentaho, that is our tool that monitors our progress. Like Doctor has said, every month we give NEC monthly reports on customer resolution. The time rates are monitored. The hours you take to resolve issues are being monitored, and it's a monthly thing. You are being measured by that. We don't run away from complaints in AEDC, because for every one complaint that comes in, there are like hundreds that are there. Some people may not have the time or are timid to come up and say, this is my complaint. So for each one complaint that we see, we assume it is 100. So, and we deal with each and every complaint with the same speed. Because, like I said, my MD's office is opened. Everyone in Abuja has his phone number. Then you are not in Abuja. Then you are not in Abuja.
But in terms of complaints, how long should the customer expect typically?
It depends on the complaint. There are complaints that are being resolved instantly. There are complaints that take 24 hours. There are complaints that take 10 days, and it all depends on the complaints. 1 month, yes, sir. Like if it is a transformer issue, it takes 2 months to get resolved. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Sam, some of us may not know, but most of us probably know that there is supposed to be tariff increase coming up soon. We've heard that the regulator is pondering with the idea of increasing the amount we pay for power by about 50% in April. I think the question I want to ask you is, in all of this trying to increase tariff, if you were still in the game in NEC, if you are still involved, what would, seeing that we are all seated here and you are listening to or you would listen to people talk about issues they have, we're all discussing, what would you have to say to those that are running their affairs today in terms of how they should really look at the person that is being served before they increase how much the person has to pay? What do you think you would be pointers that you would give to the current commissioners today?
Well, when I left the NEC, I left totally. I remember I went to teach, so, but of course, like today I was in NTA, and after one of the senior management wrote to me and said, "Sir, you're actually more NEC chairman after NEC. You're helping us to." I'll try to help them, but at the same time, I think they face a different political economy, slightly different from what we face, so different challenge. But I think key things I've always said, and now that I've gone back to study more, I have a better understanding too. I've always said that, and I said that the tariff, if they cure to the liquidity crisis in the sector in the short to medium term, it's going to be tariff, it will fail. The tariff cannot solve that problem in the short to medium term for the simple reason that both the propensity to pay and the quality of service that should stimulate that payment is still very low.
For the benefit of the audience, can you speak more about liquidity issue that you just mentioned?
Well, what I mean, financial viability, I mean in terms of, today we know that this sector is is on the other side of bankruptcy than of prosperity. In terms of revenue collection, they are screaming, debt overhang increasing. And so, and the design of this process is that this industry should be liquid. The primary reason for privatizing, for the reform, is that the liquid industry would facilitate expansion of network, maintenance services that create service. So the discourse and the other operators are right to demand tariff increase because in a technical sense, the tariff is not cost reflective, meaning that if you put a production function, look at the production function, the tariff is not a marginal cost or not average cost in that sense. So it's not a cost of a tariff. But then, tariff is both an art and a science. There's nowhere in the world where regulators just give you the tariff you ought to have. Tariffs are sculpted in a way that you can recover over a long time. The critical guarantee the regulator owes you is that you will have recovery ultimately. That any of those deferred recoveries will be put back as long as they are prudent and relevant. So what that means, therefore, is that some degree of leadership to know when and how much you can add to a tariff. But that presupposes that the operator is able to finance shortfall through their borrowing capabilities. Unfortunately, because of what we know, our economics and their own competencies, they don't have that capacity to perhaps finance deferred payments over a long period of time. The escalators in terms of dollar, exchange rates, inflations also hit them again. So what that therefore means is that this is where it's adaptive challenge, not just technical, not just the mathematics, put them together, but adaptive. You look at the environment, you look at how can you convince the operator to continue. So what should NEC do? Before we left, we had what we call and by the way, we don't get deserved credit for all we did, including the way I'm talking about. We did several good things, but people just behave as if it never happened. We had a tariff regulation, which the purpose was to say, take NEC away eligibility from the tariffs, okay? Consumers, the operators should convince consumers of the need for increase. And what does that do? Of course, no consumer will agree. I mean, I've sat in town halls where consumers will not quickly agree. But the point is, if Abuja engages its consumers on the need for increase and shows them an investment plan, this is why the increase, because this is where the metering is going to happen, then you are creating a control measure where the consumers themselves, the disco is put under pressure to justify increment. He enters into some kind of contract with the consumers, the next expectation. Okay, maybe we're going to do load sharing, we're going to have 18 hours of regular light, we're going to do all those markers of service improvement to part of it. So the regulator himself will now sit back and review all those and the complaints from groups like this and finally approve tariff. So three things I want the regulator to bear in mind is, one, communication. I think we need to increase the level of communication in the industry. The credibility is very low. And communication requires authority. You have to have a face and a reputation to backstop communications. I believe you. We did 3 tariff reviews when we were in NEC, and they were all hot tariff reviews. The sector was still bad as it is, but we were largely successful because there was massive. She herself was one of our consultants. A great job we did. I was on air every time. And I tell them, one of the communicators, one of the guys told me that the reason why we succeeded was that the chief executive should be speaking about this because it carries an aura of authenticity. It's not something you outsource to press releases. You have to engage the people, and it's about believability. This sector will not be sorted out in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but people need to have confidence. And that's why leaders are purveyors of hope. It's going to work. Second, the regulator has to insist on continuous consumer and operators engagement. Let the consumers carry the ball of convincing consumers. Let the operators carry the burden of convincing the trust of those consumers who will pay the bill. That's very important. And thirdly, is that the idea of cost-effective tariff should, for example, why do we reduce the losses? You can't have a tariff that has 150, 180% increase at a time. That's huge rate shock. It's not good. You have to find a way to increase tariffs in a manner that has to kind of phase out over time. But finally, I think the operators need some tender love as well. We really need to feel that they're also feeling the pinch, but more importantly, we need to find a way to ensure that they have access to finance. You can't cure this problem by inflicting consumers with what you call cost-reflective tariff, where there's no production, no services. You need to find a way to first create product, increase efficiency, and then push the cost to the consumer. There should be a time lag. That time lag has to be funded.
Thank you very much. I'm sure a lot of us here have our questions already, and customer is king, so let's open the floor to hear from the audience, but I would like to start with a lady. So can I have your question? Then go ahead, ma. Yes, please stand up. You have a question.
Can I ask you the question?
Sure.
Okay, my name is Ozioma Izora. I am a lawyer, a consumer too. And on the other leg, I'm part of Amadi's agency in Imo State, okay, rural electrification. And that's really why I came now, because I thought in this dialogue we would see beyond AEDC. One happiness I have is that the gentleman who is running the consumer network is experienced. He's gone into the areas beyond AEDC. I want to thank you because my village is Anambra because I married an Anambra man, but I'm in this board for Imo State where I come from. Nobody talks about electricity. I spent one whole month, December to January, in Ihala, and I was going to Imo State all the time. Electricity was not evident anywhere, and that was festive season when all Igbos go home. It's disco called EEDC or something like that. Nobody knows how or whether it operates. And we're supposed to give power to rural communities. Now he says that the forums do not exist in all the states. And then there was the other one. What was it I said that it functions only in Abuja and Lagos?
Okay.
That has left
That is
the entire nation out. And what I am not happy about is that Chairman Amadi is my chairman in Imo State, not in NEC. So NEC is not here. We're talking about what the regulator should do, and the regulator is not here. It's almost like a wasted effort.
Okay, so I'm happy to hear your comments, Ma. And I'll just.
You want me to ask a question? Why is NEC not here?
That's what
the
I
other
want.
question is, yes.
That's fine.
The other question I want to ask is, how are we going to rope in the real consumers? Because the real consumers are not just those who benefit from AEDC. Okay, there was a problem in Pape area where I lived last weekend, and I didn't have power. And I put a post on Facebook, and people said, Madam, you mean you have power up to? I have a lot of power, courtesy AEDC, but that is not true of many other parts of Abuja. What are we really hoping to? How?
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing here is for the benefit of the customers. That's why we are all seated here today. That's why you have this gentleman and the lady to my left seated all here. Everything we're discussing is going to be summarized and communicated for the benefit of the regulator, for the benefit of the government, for the benefit of discos, and even for your benefit as a consumer. So don't feel that because NEC is not on the panel here, that whatever we're discussing here is not going to get to the regulator. So just to give you that assurance, what your question is.
Okay, hi. My name is Sadiq Mohammed. I work in mainstream. I think I'm just going to proffer a couple of solutions. I'm not going to touch on any problems. We know all the problems, basically. I think, essentially, why, if you look at the profile of complaints that discos receive, majority are around metering issues, estimated billing, and inability to actually get the supply. Those are the major complaints. So I think we need to take a step back. I think everybody has touched on some of the things that can be done, but I think I want to suggest that, we haven't actually come out and talk about education. We really need to educate Nigerians. Like the lady said, a lot of the disco things that actually go out, they're mostly in English. I'm not saying all the discos don't do it in different languages, but we need to understand us as Nigerians. There are some people that even in the local language, they might not understand or have the ability to read. So I think we need to do a lot more in terms of education. That's cutting across the regulator, the operators, and even the CSOs, because I think it's a major stumbling block. As you know, during the NEPA or PACN era, people didn't believe that you could actually lay a complaint and actually be listened to. We also need to take a step back and actually look at what has been achieved. Probably 10 years ago, did we have any customer complaint units? We didn't. We have now, today we have several. But the reality is, they're not really touching to the core of the people that are complaining. Like the gentleman from NECAN said earlier, and Dr. Sam also touched on it, we need to get closer to people. How do we do that? Like I said, solution. The discos actually need to work with the communities. We need to empower people to be able to actually handle these complaints. We need to empower local people with employment. With my experience when I was in Kano Disco, I can tell you when a restructuring was done, we looked at how can we actually extend, how can we reach out to more people. I think there needs to be a very decentralized system where people can actually complain directly to a local area rather than, like you said, having to travel here and there. There's only a number of forum offices, one per state, right? You could simplify it. A disco, for example, let's even take Abuja. They have, I believe, 4 customer complaint centers. They can, 3 or 4. Forum office. You could actually have much more forum offices where, especially with the platforms that they have in Abuja, Eko and Ikeja, where people can really complain. And just finally, I think if I can touch on the tariff thing, really it will be a shock. Looking at the increases that we're talking about, definitely is going to probably reduce the propensity for people to even pay. For somebody who's receiving a bill of estimated bill of 20,000 in a month, and get a shock of receiving maybe 30, 40, probably even more. So I think we really need to focus on the issues. Issues are metering, and I think we haven't heard about customer enumeration. And I think it's very key. So
thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sadiq.
All right, my name is Wesley Ibo. I'm an independent communications consultant. Mine is a bit of a contribution from the consumer interest and knowledge perspective, because I like to think that
we really want questions.
Yeah, I think it will help us. It will help us, yeah. Is a lot of what we do in terms of consumer advocacy depends on the interest and knowledge of the consumers. So I think we should, first of all, switch from the traditional approach to modern day communication strategies. When we talk about consumer advocacy, we talk about trainings, we talk about community engagement, we talk about academic exercises, that are more sector requirements than sector realities. We need to employ a more effective approach.
Thank you.
For instance, EBSTRA can be adapted into a 2-minute visual. If I look at it and I know my rights as a consumer, then I know what to pursue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Engineer Idowu Ebanjo from the United Kingdom. I work as a power system engineer. I'm a consultant in the Nigerian power sector. My question is to Madam Sophia. It's on customers. Thank you very much for coming, Madam Sophia Bello. Do you know your customers? That's my first question. Have you done customer enumeration? Have you done customer class categorization? And have you sent them to NERC?
Okay.
It's required by law.
Okay, just before she answers, because she will have to step out briefly.
So, to the what's it called, the attendee who asked that question, we've done all the above, so we're good.
Sorry? Okay, so I think the following question is, what you have is NEC aware?
Okay, have we sent it to NEC?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
So it's a requirement that we needed to comply with, and we've submitted our enumeration data to NEC.
Okay, so he can go and confirm from NEC, and if he doesn't, and they don't have it, he can come back and hold
on
you
a monthly
responsible.
basis, we do submissions of our customer population. So,
okay, all right. Thank you very much.
My name is Ada. And my question is directed to AEDC. So you just finished saying you're trying to be customer-centric, and although your response times to little issues like trippings and all is spectacular, how about the big issues like transformers? If your transformer goes out, what is your response time? Like, we have an issue now. We've been on it since 2016 with no response. At this point, we have to contribute as an estate to get a new transformer. So how do you deal with such issues?
Okay, so thanks very much for acknowledging that our response time is spectacular. So for the transformer issues, we're doing our best to crunch on the time that it takes for us to process that. But like you rightly said, it takes longer than expected sometimes. And as the head of customer service spoke, she also told us that sometimes it takes up to 2 months. In which case, if the customer is desperate for a transformer, they can always enter an agreement with AEDC so that if they purchase a transformer, they get a refund. And that's called investment in electricity sector, that sort of thing. So if you come to us before you purchase the transformer, you're able to enter an agreement with us to get a refund over a period of time. So even though it sounds like it's not possible, most people don't even bother to come forward.
What about meters? Do they get a refund for meters?
Yes, you do. You get a refund for meter. Yes, under the CAPME scheme, we had fee tokens. Under the MAP scheme, we have a MAP adjusted tariff, which even though we've not started implementing, but we know all the customers we've metered under MAP so far. So as soon as NEC approves that tariff, we start to implement it.
Okay.
So customers get a refund for meters as well.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to make sure that we try and take as many questions as possible.
Okay, thank you for the trust. I'm Shola Efremolu Anuga. I wear many caps, but for this purpose, I'm a lawyer. I have two questions, one to the prof, and the other question to Uket. Uket, you said something about funding for the Consumer Association. Don't you think if you expect funding from NEC or from government, it will be a case of he who pays the piper will dictate the tune? Would you consider looking beyond them for your funding, like international organizations or the likes? Prof, I'm very happy you said something about human rights, and now you've gone back to class. Are consumer rights human rights? If they are human rights, in what way has it influenced the policy on consumer advocacy and consumer protection? I would like your thoughts on this.
Thank you. So we'll take that.
I have a question, and it goes to the two members of the panel that's there. Given where we are with quantity of electricity available, all of the challenges that there are we better off putting money into trying to solve the problems consumers have through customer forums, etc., etc.? Or should we not go the economic way, which is allow the consumer to vote with their money? Here is what I mean. Why should a disco have a franchise area? Why don't we have competition in the disco space, such that if a customer is happy with one provider, they can take their custom to another provider in the same area? That way, we will get market forces to solve the problem of poor services from discos.
Good evening. My name is Aditayo Adebimle. I don't know if anybody has ever come across Power Up Nigeria. That's the organization I represent. That is an advocacy, consumer advocacy organization that actually predates NECAN itself. Well, okay, question, right? Okay, I wanted to I have a comment before the question, but I will just keep the comment and go straight to
make it brief quickly.
NECAN. Of course, you are aware that we have more than one consumer advocacy organization, electricity consumer advocacy organizations in this country. What efforts has NECAN put in place to bring these organizations together? Incidentally, since it's Dr. Sam that initiated NECAN. Now, incidentally, consumer advocacy was a response to the new market. So it wasn't as if anybody waited for the government to start something. Everybody started on their own. I can share my experience. If I start sharing my experience, we'll be here for the next 7 days, if not more. So has there been any effort that you have put into? Of course, you know them by name, so I can start mentioning names too. But you also know them. We know them. We know ourselves in that space. Madam Sefia, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Please be brief. Please be brief. Take more questions, please.
There appears to be, you've spoken so glowingly about the efforts AEDC is putting into trying to make consumers king. Right. But that effort, the same thing I say to Ikeja Electric, same thing I say to KDP, same thing I say to even your media guys, is the fact that there seems to be a disconnect between the efforts that the management is trying to put into addressing that issue as against the experience we have in the field.
Okay, so ask your
question,
are you
please. Aware of this? If you are aware of this, what effort are you putting into addressing that issue? Dr. Sam, nice to see you finally. I love your comments so far. It appears that you've gained so much experience after leaving NERC. Is that so?
I'm Miracle Ogumbawale, Power Africa Nigerian Power Sector Program. Your customer, so it's directed at you, is your customer-centric approach reactive or proactive? Because almost everything you mentioned is resolution, this is what you do, but do you actively outreach, have outreach mechanisms to your customers, your consumers, to let them know? Because for instance, there are a lot of issues that if they're aware of, then they won't necessarily have to come for it to be resolved. Right? Are there also like different complaint categories? So for instance, can I go to your website and check what category my complaint falls under and the duration for resolution and hold you accountable if it doesn't get solved within that time frame?
This is Emmanuel Ozemena. I'm a public policy consultant. I want to say first, if I'm given an opportunity to choose between AEDC and Microsoft, I would choose Microsoft. I bought a Microsoft phone that went bad in 2014. I think about 2 months before my warranty expired, it had a problem. I took it to the service provider who kept it for 3 months, after which he now said, "You will pay." I said, "No, I won't pay." I put up a post on Microsoft Twitter page. Within 1 minute, I got a response from Microsoft asking me, "We will escalate it." In 2 days, I got a call from their Washington office asking me, "Mr. Emmanuel, we are sorry, can you tell us the story?" Which I did. And within 1 week, I got a call, "Please, can you come and pick up your phone?" You can imagine the distance between Washington and Abuja.
Who called you? Was it Bill Gates?
No. But the issue is that I got a call and she introduced herself. Meanwhile, in the last 20 months, I had no electricity in my house. I have gone to the disco office in my estate. I've complained. The funny thing is that none of them had even paid a visit. So you can imagine. My wife in her shop had an issue, and since 2016 to date, they've not been able to resolve it. So if you say vote between Microsoft and AEDC, you can imagine. And what I have done, this is the first time I'm speaking about this publicly. On a weekly basis, I have 2 radio programs I appear in. I have never, ever mentioned it because I feel it's a private matter. I should manage. So what I'm asking, when Madam says in 1 hour, in 3 hours, whatever, we resolve it. Madam, please, I want to know, what is the power you invest in your branch offices or of AEDC? Why don't you find a way where if issues comes to your attention, you respond quickly, pay a visit to that, because there's an address to the house, there's a location, get your office that is within close to resolve it. Because all they did, Emmanuel, can you come and pick your phone? I went and picked my phone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please, let me start with Mr. Emmanuel. Mr. Emmanuel, I'm very sorry about your experience. It is not in our character to treat our customers that way. Do you have a referral number for your complaint? Because when you walk into our franchise area, we have 36 area offices, and in each 36 area offices, we have a customer care unit. And like I told you, our systems are automated. Your complaint, as soon as you walk in, will be registered. There we have the mechanism, customer care mechanism by NEC. If you are illiterate, like someone was saying, it will be recorded. And then we register. Automatically, the system gives you a referral number. Do you have a referral number? You don't have. So maybe your complaint has not been channeled to the right. You have not taken your complaint to the right channel. But all the same, we are here, we are equipped, we can go into the system, Mimi, please, can you go into the system here and try and see what his issue is? We can look at it here and resolve it for you. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. No, my teams are here and the system is here. So it's real time. When I say real time, I mean real time, Mr. Emmanuel. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes. The customer is king all the time, always. The second question was how customer centricity.
Yes, I think Miracle here had a question about
how customer centricity is.
You reactive
are we really?
Are you proactive or reactive?
And the next question was?
No, so you want to answer the question about...
No, I wanted the full question to be able to answer.
Okay.
Can I have a question? What's
okay,
your concern?
What? Yeah.
Okay.
Channel, but if there's proper communication and outreach, then people will know. That's the first one. Second, like I said, our companies categorized based on resolution time frame. So, for instance, if my meter goes off, or I don't know, whatever, can I check on your site or something to say problems like this get resolved in 1 week? If after 8 to 10 days it doesn't get resolved, can I hold you responsible to say, hey, you said it was going to be resolved, and this time frame is not resolved?
Yeah, that is mandatory for every disco to publish that on their website. Have you ever been to our website and you have not seen that? Maybe you should check in recent times. Yeah, but we are not Microsoft yet, but... Yeah, we are not Microsoft yet, but we are trying. We're going to be there, madam. That's number one. Number two, we have been engaging our customers. We do town hall meetings, we educate them. We have representatives in all our franchise area to ensure to talk to our customers locally in different languages. Like you. You can go to the website, you get all the education there, madam. Okay. Or you can come to my office.
Okay. I think what I'll just do is, we are done taking questions, but I'll just take 2 more. I'll just take one from a male and a female. So, sir, you that have been raising your hand, just give...
Please, my name is Prince Will Okori. I'm of Association for Public Policy Analysis. I want to ask, it's good Dr. Sam Amadi is here. We were told that, no, I know. We were told that the federal, state, and local government has 40% share in the privatized companies. But why is it that there is no structure in the state, local, and federal to educate consumers on provisions of Electric Power Sector Reform Act? We don't need to trivialize this. For instance, there is what they call customer service standard of performance for distribution companies. Why do AEDC not educate consumers on that? Customer service standard of performance for distribution companies. That has to do with, for instance, duration. Duration when you take your complaint to them. Connection and reconnection issues. That is one question. Number 2, the states are supposed to have consumer protection committees. And the consumer protection committees are expected to defend or protect the interest of consumers in the states. Why is it that the state governments, even FCT in Abuja here now, doesn't have a unit for education or protection of electricity consumers? Whereas Section 14(2)(b) says security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And in the face of serious exploitation, intimidation, and humiliation of consumers, the state and local governments have no structure in place to help these consumers. Finally, it is good to explain certain things. When they sit in government, those appointed, like today, AEDC people may be laughing. Like I said the other day, most of us here may be laughing until we leave the seat. We will now see what happens. Today, a former commissioner that we were going to in Imo to say, get community people and educate them on their rights on electricity. He was laughing at us. This morning, he woke me up from sleep and said his transformer
his street since last October has not had light. And they came last week and carried the transformer away. I should come and help him. I told him, please help yourself.
Thank you.
When you were in government, today, most of us here who live in places where we don't even pay for the fuel for our generators, these things will look funny. But there are people that their well-being depend on this light to make a living, yet they are exploited and the light they don't see. I've finished.
Thank you. I think your question is duly noted.
Hello, my name is Awele Okibo, and I run a strategic communications firm. 2 questions. This is directed to AEDC. One, would it be possible to complement a lot of your advocacy and communications to actually push information to consumers, as opposed to the onus being on consumers to go to their website, to go to the customer service shop, to go to AEDC locations? Will it be possible, maybe via text messaging, bulk SMS, maybe AEDC, sending out some information that would talk about EPSRA, consumer rights and responsibilities? I think that would be, is that possible? Second question, my firm did a study about 3 years ago, and we were able to identify low-hanging fruit for Nigerians. Metering is going to take a lot of money and may take a longer time. Getting rid of crazy bills as well. Is it possible for AEDC to publicly to publicize load shedding schedules? If I get a text message saying that I will have power from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., Nigerians are very disenfranchised. No one's expecting 24-hour electricity. But I think it'll go a long way if we are able to get a text message saying you will get power from 3 to 5. I can iron during that time. I can do my recharge business during those hours. And this model is working in different African countries that have even worse power issues. Is that possible as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. To begin with, I think there are 3 questions directed to me. One is from the gentleman in front here that talks about funding. Whether it is possible or better for advocacy groups to be funded by the discos or operators or international donor agencies. I think from the beginning, we were not looking up to, and we are still not looking up to, discos or operators of funding. We are working towards getting funds from international partners and donor agencies, though we have not yet gotten it. Then the other question is the efforts to co-opt other advocacy groups. Yes, in the beginning we tried. In fact, I still refer to Dr. Samuel C. I remember the very first day in Rockview Hotel, the whole hall was filled. That was on the 27th, 28th of April, 2015. And we had, NECAN started with about 16 members from various groups. But when they discovered that monies were not forthcoming, and when we meet, and the chairman, myself, and a few others, I think 5 of us, would dip hands in our pockets to form projects, they ran back. That is the situation. We are willing, we are ready. We want, in fact, when my chairman came back from UK, he said, look, this year we must have to make NECAN work. And we are looking up to you to come on board. This is an open invitation. But before I end, I want to say something about the issue of tariff increase. We in NECAN, based on our studies and findings, we are opposed to tariff increase in its totality. It is not that there is supposed to be, or there's no need for it as we speak. When you consider the environment, the market environment, as we speak, the entire sector lacks adequate data. There is no data. The regulator, as we speak, depends on the regulated for data. The regulator is depending on the regulated for data, which is abnormal. Take, for instance, we discover that at privatization, BPE used 5.2 million figure as the population strength in electricity. And recently we ran into a document from NEC dated 15th of November 2015 that put the sub-customer class of residential 2 at 7.02 million. And the totality of the customer strength is 5.2 million. How do you reconcile that? And the subclass is what? 7.02 million. So there's no data. As we speak, NEC, I confronted a GM commercial service, something in customer service in NEC some time ago. How do you verify these figures given to you by the distribution companies? They say, well, we have no capacity. We walk in there, we try to do this to see if. And that's what is happening. That's what's happening. So we suggest what was done in Kenya, what was done in Ethiopia, and what was done in Egypt, where the governments in these countries, before privatization or after privatization, they embarked on nationwide customer enumeration. It can be done here. We can't be talking of cost-reflective tariff when you don't know the number of people. You can't be talking of closing a metering gap when you don't know the number of people. How do you close a metering gap of the people you don't know? Then, secondly, we are talking of cost reflectivity in a situation where the generation capacity is gone up. And the 4 exogenous variables that should determine the tariff. Therefore, 1, inflation. Number 2, generation capacity. Number 3, exchange rate. Number 4, the American, whatever, how do you call it? Inflation in the US.
Okay.
Yes. When you look at these 4, there is inflation rate based on the figures, the data that came from NBS yesterday or day before yesterday.
Sure.
But if you look at generation capacity and the American something, they have removed. But it is in the MITO. It has not been removed. I am aware that the current order 170A and order 184, order 170 came up, I think, in August last year, and order 184 in January or early January this year. Okay. Yes, the generation capacity was not considered, which is wrong. The MITO has not been amended. And if there is provisions, and even the EPSR Act has these issues there, so why must they remove it? So we are opposed to it. Talking of cost-reflective tariff as we speak now is hypothetical. It's just an academic exercise because the environment is not right for it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Sam, I know a couple of questions were directed to both of you. Can you speak a bit more about answering some of the questions that were asked?
Well, I think the first thing I want to say is around, back to, can I throw this? Okay, I can move it now. So back to the argument about LECAN and outreach, really. First, the idea of LECAN actually was to create a network. At an initial meeting, many groups came, but typical of our Nigerian thing. Tough battle, ownership struggles, maybe, but the idea was to say bring different groups that are involved in different things so that you have one group that has power, can have access to resources. And when we did that, I went off my way to go to USAID. I had with the World Bank, and I told your chairman, what's his name?
Chief Tommy Akungbabu.
Tommy, I said, NEC will not give you money because it's actually unprofessional. But I did that of enthusiasm. But we can't do that. And me, I'm a person of integrity and process. If you convince me something is wrong, I stop it. But I'll go out of my way to, and I spoke to those guys, but the chief himself was busy scandalizing us at the initial time, me, as if I stole, that I set up a place, I disappointed them. If they had pursued that World Bank and DFID leads I gave them, USAID, they would have been funded. So I still think that it's important for federal government perhaps to fund them. It will be consistent because it's a public good. Advocacy for consumer welfare is a public good. The state has interest that consumers are strong for their interests. But then you have to create a platform that is all-inclusive and properly managed. It can't be like an NGO. Okay. Now, the other issue that I would like to talk about, somebody is customer remuneration. You see, the problem with this sector, in my view, the professional had a problem, but beyond that, every process has problem in the world. You do iteration, you learn from mistakes, you improve. He said, it's like, yes, when I got to the sector, I didn't have a practical experience. I've not worked in the power sector. I had theory experience, which, I tried my best. I'm a learner. I learn fast, and I keep learning. I learned fast, but then there are things I would do far better. If it was now, I would have destroyed you guys. I would be a beast, because it's clear I won't listen to. Many people are listening to. And the governance of the sector is collegiate. You have to get the board to agree. There are certain things I would have done on my own if it was not a board and I've got results. So I agree with you that I look back and see some of the things we should have done, we have been stronger on, things we should have been stronger on. For example, when they did the privatization, I issued a report that shows that the operators didn't have capacity. I wrote to the vice president, so I have the full record, over 20 pages, said nobody passed the test. They were scandalized. Went back, BPE says they changed the rules. So there are certain things that perhaps one would have pushed for further than. Not that this, it wasn't a sweetheart day, it wasn't rigged, it was that the threshold was very low for the kind of improvement we're expecting. And that brings the point about customer remuneration. Before we left, we are fighting with the discourse that they should do it in 6 months. We mandated that it should be done in 6 months. And they said they can't do, some people are saying 3 years. We say it's not possible, it's not record science. GIS. Today, it has not been done. There is no real-time data proving credible about customer number anywhere in the industry. 4 years after, we've not done it. We wanted to do it in 6 months. So what's the lesson? They should have, perhaps if the new government had just removed Sam Amade and kept some of those guys, continuity is important in regulation. We would have built on our errors, we would have fast-tracked some of the things we are pushing. But 2 years of law, 2 years of no real regulation in this sector before the guys came up, totally messed everything. So really, I don't blame and that's my first statement. People talk about, this coach, Abuja did this, Abuja did this. Let me ask a question. What's the incentive of Abuja Disco to spend more money doing customer consultation when it's a monopoly? The idea of a monopoly is that there's no competition. So why are you trying to spend so much to make this guy happy when he is a captive customer? So what that means is that it's a regulatory stick. That is a regulator that should mandate consultations, review them. How many consultations? Otherwise, no regulated entity in the world has incentive to spend more for less. Because whether they do those things or not, you pay the bills. There's no choice in this market, because we are still, the distribution side is still a monopoly. So I think all this should feed back to how we NEC more effectively incentivize, structure their behavior in a way that they do what they're saying. Who's the right thing? Proactivity, like she said. They go about, tell their customers, if you have a problem, call this number. Not for the consumers to discover. But that requires investment in human resources, investment in time, in platforms, in maintenance. Those things have cost element. And so the regulator's job is to track and punish and nudge you towards those activities, because the operator knows, the regulator can see through. And that's the final point. It says, if we depend on our data and information only from what they give us, then we have no capacity to know when they're misbehaving, except it's a gregarious misbehavior that everybody sees. So we need to really invest more in the regulatory capacity to be able to push. These guys can do better, really, if you push them well, because there's still a margin of efficiency, but it involves cost. Somebody will get less money, but the consumer will get more value.
And just talk about the consumer, is consumer rights, human rights? I think
consumer rights, human rights, interesting question. But of course, it depends on how you stretch it. On the face of it, consumer right is a contractual right. You're a consumer, you are paying money. These are the rights. But there is human right to the extent that you tie social welfare of consumers to socio-economic welfare and to socio-economic rights. So essentially, consumers have a right as part of human right, like existence right to welfare, but do they have a human right to a particular level of electricity supply They don't have a human right to a particular service supply, quality of service, metering, yes. 1 hour or 2 hours of consumer complaint management. No. So what they do, what they can say is that there's a public responsibility on government under section chapter 2 to take actions. Like I've argued in my paper once, that it imposes the responsibility of regulation. It said the Nigerian economy should be managed in a manner that ensures social welfare, which means government has the responsibility of regulating the economy to achieve that end. The consumers themselves don't have a human right to be served in a particular way, but the government has a responsibility to ensure both equal access to network. That's why we have universal service obligations. You provide every citizen. By the way, some part of this country has the problem of distance. So if you say all the power should go to Southeast because the power plants are there and they live at the Northeast, it is the issue of social equity. So I would rather say that's a government responsibility to provide through private operators, of course, an environment that assures consumers some degree of welfare in electricity, but not necessarily a human right per se of a consumer to X amount of power. And then the issue finally on load shedding. That's why I talked about lack of continuity. Before we left, Commissioner Abba, who was Commissioner for Consumer Affairs, brought the issue about load scheduling. From Ghana, we showed example in Ghana of where the discourse announced to you this week. This is, I will say, this has to be operationalized. Of course, the discourse says, oh, we can't do it several reasons, which is normal, nothing untoward. That's that disco and regulators are cat and mouse. They want to hide, they want to find you out. We went into discussion. And we are pushing for that, which I think should be something that they can be mandated now and now. Okay. So it's a regulatory issue. But if you create too much discontinuity, like someone talk about CAPME, then you move to MAP, which in my view is lousy. CAPME was still better. You can fine-tune it. You can strengthen enforcement. So that's really what we have to watch out for. The regulator backstops the performance of the discourse and consumer issues.
Thank you very much. Sophia, please.
Going back to your questions, Madam, you were talking about push for more communication. Thank you very much for that. I think I'm going to take that as a feedback. But I want to also tell you that we have a contact center that is 24/7, that has all the channels, social media, where we have Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, live chats, and most of our communications are done through that. But I'm taking this as a feedback, and thank you for that. And I can assure you, very soon we're going to be in your area with your banners in Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. Yes. The load shedding, Oga has really talked about it. And I think, I don't know, maybe it has two sides. Nigeria, when you said you're load shedding, you're not going to have light for this period of time. Rest assured you have maybe some visitors in the night. So that, I think, was what the discourse we were looking at, plus other things I really can't say. So thank you very much for the feedbacks. We love your feedbacks, we love your questions, and we are going to improve. It's going to help us improve in our business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think at this, please feel free to come. Thank you very much, all of you that are here. It's important for us to know that we are all consumers, and what has been discussed today really matters, and everything will be summarized and presented to the regulator. The load shedding question, I found that interesting because what I understood is that some discourse that tried to tell people when they will provide light and when they will not provide light, they ended up having people know when to go and steal the transformer because it's not going to be powered or energized. So, we're in Nigeria, so we need to always look at. So that actually has been an experience of a disco that I know, whereby people know that maybe there's no light from 3 to 6 p.m. You can go there and vandalize the equipment. So, this is Nigeria. We know the peculiarities of Nigeria, and it's important that as we all try to sit down here and discuss the problems, let's also think of the different sides of, the consequences of different actions that can be taken. But ultimately, all your views have been valuable. A round of applause to all of us here, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this Power Dialogue. It's been amazing on the feedback, the questions, the comments. Thank you so much for your contributions. Amazing panelists for coming and taking our time to have a conversation with us. And thank you for everyone for making our time to join us. So the next Power Dialogue is March the 18th, and we hope to see you then. Have a lovely evening.